How's it going, guys? It's your boy Kanji FPL, and we are back with another YouTube video. On today's video, we're going to be going through my final draft. I am so excited. The Premier League season is right around the corner, like literally just like a couple days away. We just finished watching the Community Shield, and you know what? I kept asking myself, like, are there things I can take from this game? Like, are there lessons I can take from this game that'll translate into the season? And I think the first thing that I can think about is that from an Arsenal perspective, I don't really know who their striker is going to be. Is it going to be Nketiah? Because every time Jesus was out, Nketiah came in, and Arteta's been very stubborn with that. But now that they bought Havertz, Havertz could play that striker role. Trossard, I think, is like the best striker that I think that they have in that position. And I feel like they could also play Martinelli there if they wanted to. They could play Balogun there. Like, he just scored 20 goals from League One. So there's so many options that Arsenal have. So I feel like from the Arsenal like striker perspective, I'm not worried about it. Defensively, that Man City and Arsenal game was just so clogged. Like, you could tell from the way that both teams set up, they played like not to lose in the beginning versus to try to win. And I was like, all right, this is kind of what I expected. It's a little bit bland, a little bit boring, but it was still a good game to watch, you know. I was surprised that Holland ended up finishing the game with like no shots on target, didn't even score. Like, I was pretty surprised about that. And it's funny to me because as soon as Kevin De Bruyne got subbed on, like, wow, like the whole game opened up. Like, they were just creating chances for fun. Like, De Bruyne is so good. Like, I gotta remember how good he is because I know he's underpriced this year in FPL. So at some point he may be an option, and for me he was never an option. At the same price as Mo Salah, I'm never gonna be going against Salah. The fact that Salah's on pens, I'm a Liverpool fan. Like, bro, there's no way I'd ever be on KDB. But now the fact he's at 10.0, at some point he could be an option this year. So let's keep an eye on that. Also, Phil Foden, man, I expect him to just get so many more minutes with all these players leaving, right? And then next thing you know, first game of the season, Community Shield, boom, benched. Like, yeah, Foden can play like 5 different positions, right, Pep? He can play right wing, he could play left wing, he could play left bench, center bench, right bench. Like, bro, what is Pep doing? How can you be benching Phil Foden? I just don't get it. Like, Foden is way too good to be riding the bench. But then I feel the same way about Alvarez. Like, Alvarez is too good to be riding the bench either. So it's hard for him to find that balance in the squad. But if Foden's not getting enough minutes, this has to be the season where he leaves the club. Because, like, he is just way too good to be a bench player. Like, all these players have left. Like, this has to be his, like, season to, like, glow up. This has to be his blow-up season, in my opinion. And I really just expected it from Phil Foden this year. But there is some other logic to it too. Like, I know in the big games, Pep likes to play his wingers with ball security. So he likes Grealish on the left, he likes Bernardo on the right in the big games. So this could be a one-off scenario. But I still feel like this is Foden's like season. At 7.5, he's gonna be an option at some point. But then I think to myself, like, man, there's so many mids in FPL. Like, there's like Madison, Martinelli, Diego Jota. Like, these are players on my watch list, and I'm like, man, Foden isn't the only one. And at least some of those players are nailed for minutes. Like, Madison's 100% nailed to start. So it's like, why would I take the risk on Foden? But then I know Foden has crazy upside playing in the best team. He's basically like a shadow striker at times if he's taking up that Gundogan role. He can play in various different positions across the pitch. I'm expecting his minutes to be way higher this year. But I just think to myself again, I don't know if I want the rotation risk. And so in the back of my mind, Foden, he's volatile in my mind, where it's like he can go from being the best value asset in the game to being like a differential that I don't even want to come close to. So I don't know where I stand on this Foden thing, but I just think he's a great asset, but I likely just won't start with him in game week 1 just because of this. Even if we get the team leak that he's going to be starting, I just think in the back of my mind, I'm not sure if I want that, because when I look at the fixtures, I'm like, all right, Burnley game week 1, he'll start. Game week 2, he could just bench him. Like, Pep could literally just bench him. And the fact that Foden will be your differential, and whenever your differential returns or they blank, that's basically gonna show you whether you're gonna have a green arrow or a red arrow. And like, you're basically allowing your green and red arrows to be up to Pep. And Pep roulette, man. Like, we've just learned this over the last couple seasons. It's hard to trust Pep. So that's why I'm not really sure to go for Phil Foden, and that's why right now he's not in my squad. But before I dive right into my team, I just wanted to give you a quick insight into like my season history. You know, like, over the past couple seasons, I've been playing FPL, and you know what? I only really found Twitter in, I think, around 2020. That's when I found it, and that's when I had like probably my best ever finish, around 60K. But before I even found Twitter, I was still like a solid manager. Like I've always been an eye test type of guy where like I finished around 150k the season before that, 300k the season before that. And at this point I was just a casual. I was just picking players whoever I wanted, like bench boosting whenever I wanted, triple captaining whoever I wanted, but like season after season after season I've like refined my game and become better at this. And again, like I love FPL, man. Like I love like watching EPL games. I'm a big fan of the league. I study statistics for like almost every team and every player. Like I know players' tendencies, whether they're lefty or a righty, whether they're like more likely to pass or to shoot. Like I always just like have these things in the back of my mind just because I love football. And like playing FPL, it just really comes in line with it. So that's why I really just wanted to share my story, share like what my insights are on a weekly basis, and try to build a community one step at a time. And if I'm providing some value to you, please drop like a like and a comment button or subscribe. Like I'd really appreciate that. But yeah, just like over the season, I've been improving, and I'm hoping again, like last couple seasons, like 3 seasons ago, 60k, 2 seasons ago, 120k, last season, 80k, and again, you can see I've been coming close to that 100k mark, and again, that's been my goal. And again, this season, I'm not going to change the parameters. Like, there's going to be more players each year. More players are coming into this game, and again, that's why there's just so much more competition. It's going to become more and more difficult to finish in the top 100k again this year, but I'm excited for it. And I feel like I made so many mistakes last year that I feel like even though I have been improving, there's always room to become even better. And I think the mistake I want to rectify this season is just not wildcarding early. I already scout so much of the league because I watch more football than like most of my friends or most people I feel like that play FPL. A lot of them are going to be like statistics oriented people, or there's going to be people that are just completely eye test oriented people. And I try to provide a balance, right? But for me, I just wildcarded way too early, and I need to save that wildcard. And it really punished me last year because like the template at the end of the season with all the double game weeks was really strong, and it just took me a while to get that, and I got burnt towards the end. So next season, I want to just try to save my wildcard. And you'll see that from the way I set up my team from Game Week 1. I'm trying to take that lesson right into my first team and just not plan in too many transfers and sort of set my team up for the long term. So this is just what my season history is like, just to give you some background on how much I've been playing, some background on my history. And now this is where my team is. The first thing I want to start with is my keeper. Onana, I mean, it's really controversial. His effective ownership is ridiculous. It's probably around like 25% now. And Shaw probably has another 20% too. So you're looking at Man United defense with an EO of 50%. So are you willing to bet against that? And you have to look at the fixtures, right? You look at the fixtures and you tell yourself like, all right, Wolves, Spurs, Nottingham Forest. Like Wolves and Nottingham Forest are solid because those are home games. But the other games like Spurs, Arsenal, Brighton, they're not getting clean sheets in those games. No chance. I mean, I know United kept a clean sheet against Brighton in the FA Cup match. I think it went to penalties. And I think United won that. But I just expected Brighton to score in those games. And I expect Arsenal to score. I expect Spurs to score. But then you look at the rest of the fixtures, like as a bigger picture, you're thinking about Burnley, Palace, Brentford, Sheffield, Fulham, Luton, Everton. Like that is a solid fixture run. And you got to remember, when it comes to your keeper position in FPL, you don't want to just get the clean sheets. You want the save points. You want the bonus. And honestly, the biggest reason why I'm going with Onana is because if I didn't go for him, I would try to cover him off with Luke Shaw. Because of how high that effective ownership is, I would try to get to someone like Shaw. And when I think about it, I don't really trust Man United's defense. And that's what makes Onana such a good asset, is like he saves 0.5 over Shaw. And because I don't rate United's defense, that means the goalie is going to be getting plenty of saves. And that's why I just think United, they're probably going to put up at least 10 cleans, you would think. At least. Like maybe even like 12 or 13. They put up 17 last year, but they overperformed their defensive statistics. So they probably put up slightly less this year. And I feel like I don't want Shaw on my team because I never know if they're going to get clean or not. But then, Shalberto Carlos, like he's always high on the bonus. But maybe Onana will take some of those bonus points away because he'll have such a high baseline bonus. Whenever I watch United play in preseason, they're always passing back to him. And like even from the way United attack, like it's weird to say that a goalie will help influence the way a team can attack, but Onana really changes the way that they build up. And like they're able to create more chances. I feel like their XG as a team will go up. And that's why you'll see in my team, this isn't the only Man United player that I have. So yeah, I'm really content with Onana. I feel like it's safe. I'm not sure if it's template or not, but it's just high effective ownership. And I feel like at 5.0, it's just really solid. I feel like it's not a bad pick. Moving on to my defense. And this is again Mr. Template. I think Estupinian is the template pick for a reason. 51% effective ownership. And I think when you look at Estupinian over the course of the season last year, it's like he put up 128 points, only started 31 games, but there's no replacement for him in the squad. So you'd expect that he starts 35 games at least. So give him like 5 more games and give him like 2 points for that. That's like 10 points. He'd be at 140. Give him like 1 return, he'd be at 145 points. And that's pretty much what Gabriel did last year. And that's why I think like Estupinian and Gabriel are really solid assets. And that's why I'm starting with both of them. They both put up like basically 150 points. And I could see 150 points easily. And I don't think you have to worry too much about fixtures. But I just think there's more upside. Like, I feel like you don't want to be playing Estupinian versus not Newcastle versus Man United versus Villa, Liverpool, Man City. These aren't the most inspiring fixtures. But you know what is inspiring? These first two are absolutely gorgeous. Like, they are gorgeous. Like, I just think at home, like the fact that Estupinian isn't just a clean sheet, it's also potentially attacking threat on top of it. It's like Estupinian really is like an interesting asset at 5.0. I think he'll be a great asset throughout the whole season. And then I think over with Gabriel, it's like he's like definitely locked into my team. When I think about these fixtures over a bigger period of time, Nottingham Forest, Palace, Fulham, Everton, Bournemouth, Sheffield, Burnley, Brentford, Wolves, Luton, like those fixtures are gorgeous, man. Like over the long term, Gabriel is the type of defender that you really want to rotate with somebody. Somebody that plays game week 4, somebody that plays game week 6, maybe 8, 9, 11. If you could find a rotation with him, it's like you're putting yourself in a good position because so many good defenders are 5.5 and Gabriel's 5.0. So if you just put a 4.5 there that rotates with Gabriel, you're putting yourself in a good position. You don't need to spend that too much money in defense, you know? But instead of doing that, my draft kind of does that, but on steroids. Because like what I did is instead of going for like an extra mid-priced mid, I'm going for 2 6.5 mids. And I'm going to spend that extra money and have that extra premium defender. In this draft, I also have 0.5 in the bank. And the reason that I'm going to go with this draft is because I think Manchester City defense is really slept on. Because when you look over the first 7 fixtures, I just think there's 6 potential cleans. Man City defense will have a percentage clean sheet of around 50% or above, so that's at least 3 clean sheets in the first 7. I just think that's really solid. It's hard to get points from defenders in FPL in general, so at 5.5 I just feel like you should definitely be doubling up and trying to play them in as many fixtures as you can. So my instinct is telling me double up on Man City defense, especially because, you know, in the cup, like Foden was benched, and like I just think Foden will definitely be benched game week 2. But when I think about fixtures from 1 to 7, maybe Foden could be a really good option. But I don't know if I'll have the ability to hold my nerve. Like, I don't know if I'll be able to stay patient. I feel like I might get those trigger fingers and want to like sell him. I just feel like having Foden as your differential, it could hurt you. So I'm really wary of that. And because of that, it's going to keep his effective ownership low. And he'll always be a threat to my rank, but he'll never be like a 90% threat to my rank or a 100% threat to my rank. Because I just feel like there's always going to be that rotation risk that's going to keep his EO down. And so I can just avoid Foden. And I can avoid De Bruyne as well, specifically because of his price point, you know? 10.0 or 10.5, whatever he's at. I haven't really tinkered with him at all. So, but I just know like he's injury prone. He's coming off the injury. Like Pep will just rotate him in slowly. And like he played really well, but I just know that I'm not really touching him for now. And that's why I'm okay. I'm comfortable doubling up on Man City defense. Like I'm tripling up on Man City. I won't be able to like get to somebody else in Man City if they turn hot. That's the downside. But the upside is like no one is going to be going double City defense. People rarely even go like one Man City defender because of the rotation risk. But over the last couple of years, we've noticed that Man City don't really rotate that much in the beginning games. Like Pep usually has like a set lineup that he's playing week in and week out. And he did that last season. And so many of the main starters just played every single game. And so that's why I'm just placing that bet on Man City to just continually play their same players, their starting 11. I know they do have a cup match. I think it's like game week 2. It's like a super cup against Sevilla or something like that. So they could play their first 11 in that game. But I don't think that really matters. Like Pep doesn't really care about those games. I really don't think so. Like you could even tell they were unprepared for the Community Shield. They hadn't really had that much of a preseason. They hadn't had enough minutes as a team playing together. So I just think like, you know what, like Pep doesn't really care about those cups. And I'm trusting my instinct that like even in game week 2 they're gonna be playing their main 11. in game week 2 against Newcastle. Like, that's not a joke team. So that's why I'm really comfortable with doubling up on Man City defense. And I think the rotation risk, even though it's probably worth it more for Foden because he has a higher ceiling, I just think the fact I'll be able to just rotate the guy that I think is the most nailed, which is Ruben Dias in my opinion, I think he won't really miss a single game. So I'm just trusting that, like, I'll always have him if I'm ever nervous about one of them not starting. If I hear that Stones is starting because, Man City is the first game in game week 1 on the Friday, I'll probably start Stones or Ruben Dias, and I'll just bench Ruben Dias because I think Estupiñán and Gabriel are just really solid options. And I'm thinking to myself, like, Stones has that upside, right? Where, like, he even scored a goal in preseason. I've seen so many quotes about him, like, becoming, like, stepping into his new role into midfield, and he's trying to become the best version of himself. And, like, he finds himself in these positions where I'm like, what is going on here? Like, this guy is here? Like, what? Like, that's John Stones, like, right at the edge of the box. And, like, again, when they're playing against Arsenal, it's going to be completely different when they're playing against, like, Burnley. Like, I'm expecting them to dominate the ball. I think they played them in the FA Cup or one of the League Cups, and they beat them 6-0. So, like, it's like we're expecting like a big win for Man City. So, you could be on the attack, but most people won't be, and I'll just be doubled up on the defense and praying that someone doesn't get a counter-attacking goal. Like, that would ruin the week. But we'll see how it goes, especially in game week 1. My week could be ruined right away. But I'm just trusting my gut. My gut tells me, like, over a specific period of time, I'm trusting Man City defense. That's enough about the defenders, and let's go right into the midfield. Bukayo Saka is just really underpriced at 8.5. He's on penalties, plays for the second best team in England. His effective ownership is super high for a reason. It's because he's underpriced. This guy should be a 9.5, 10 mil asset. And next year, he will be. You'll see. But for now, like, he's just a set and forget. Like, regardless of he's in form or not, like, he's just way underpriced. I think he has the potential to be as good as Salah. And I don't think he's better than him right now, but I think he has the potential to be, like, as good as, or at least better than. So he has that type of potential, and I just think, man, you just gotta hold him. You just gotta have him. Too good. And he's gonna be this season's Kieran Trippier, boys. Like, he's gonna have 100% effective ownership in all the teams that really matter. Trust. And then it's like we'll go to Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes is kind of a differential. Like, I see him in some teams, I don't see him in others. And that's kind of where I'm like 26%. It seems odd to me because this season, he came in for half the season and put up 117 points when he came to Man United. The season after, 244 points. Again, this is just what Bruno has the capability of doing. Like, when he was playing in these seasons, he was playing with Ronaldo. And in the second half of the season, the other Man United players just underperformed their statistics. And Man United bought a new striker. That's like the thing that has me really locked on Bruno. Like, I was more questioning it before they bought the striker. But when they bought a striker and there's someone else that's going to be finishing the chances other than Rashford, it's like there's someone else Bruno can pass to, And, like, how in the heck does Bruno only have 9 assists last year? Like, that, come on, man. Like, he had the most big chances created in the league. He had the most chances created in the league, most big chances created. Probably had the most expected assists too, probably. So it's like, it's just nuts to have players like De Bruyne finishing more than him. Obviously, De Bruyne's passing to Haaland, right? So it's like a great passer and a great finisher combined, so they're like super elite. Obviously, that makes sense. But then I just think about it like, man, Rashford was so hot last year. How does Fernandes only have 9 assists? Like, there must have been a bunch of, like, misses from Rashford alone where Rashford could, like, be better. And on top of that, I'm not putting Rashford down. I mean, like, you have players like Anthony who just missed way too many chances. You have players like Martial, like Weghorst. These guys are just not good enough. So I'm like, I think there's a level that those guys can get up to, but that doesn't make them options. If anything, it just makes Bruno Fernandes a better option. And that's why I'm, like, really content with him. Again, my midfield is, like, on penalties, like Saka pens, Bruno pens, Eze pens, and Mbeumo pens. Even my strikers, Watkins should be on pens, right? And then Haaland pens. So it's like my midfield has a lot of routes to points. And I think Fernandes is just really solid. Saka and Fernandes are just like glue picks. Like, you don't have to worry too much about them. Once they're in your team, it's hard for them to leave because that's how good of picks they are. They're just good set and forget options. You don't have to worry too much. Rashford, again, the fixtures for United are really solid. They're not that great in the beginning, but again, longer term, they're really good. And from Rashford, you can go to anyone. You can go to Son. The only player you can't get to is De Bruyne, but that's it. Like, you're pretty much set. And so Rashford, he's going to be playing the number 9 for Man United. It's hard to go without him. And I think Saka, Rashford, and Gabriel, Haaland, like, these guys are just too cheap. Like, there's a reason why their effective ownership is so high. And maybe not Gabriel, like Arsenal defense in general. Like, the EO1 Arsenal defense is probably around like 80, 90%. I wouldn't be surprised. Even Estupinian is just really underpriced. So, like, these guys don't really give me any green arrows. I think in most teams, you're going to see Rashford, Fernandes, and Saka. It's Eze and Embuemo. That's where it's like my money's going to be made. Because most people are going to be going Matoma. And I was looking at Matoma, but the more that I watched Crystal Palace in preseason, I was like, wow. Like, Eze has, like, this crazy high floor. Like, not the highest ceiling, a high floor. Because he gives me James Ward-Prowse vibes. James Ward-Prowse was putting up, like, 10 and 8 or 10 and 5, like, every single season. Getting, like, 30 bonus points, couple clean sheets here and there, but the thing is with him is like he's creating all the chances, you know, like James Ward-Prowse used to do that, right? So it's like James Ward-Prowse would be on free kicks, he'd be on the penalties, he'd be on all the corners. Like Ward-Prowse was just so special because he was on all the set pieces, but he had little to no attacking threat from open play. So Eze is the same, plays for a team that's just as bad as Southampton in terms of like their attacking threat. Like Crystal Palace are maybe slightly better than what Southampton used to be, and but Eze has attacking. Oh, like he has open goal threat. Like James Ward-Prowse doesn't. And I know like Eze won't be as good in terms of like, you know, being like a free kick taker as somebody like Ward-Prowse, but he'll have more direct goals. So I just think Eze to me is just really underrated. And even when I looked at the statistics, when I was looking at them last season, I'm like, this doesn't stand out to me. Like 7 XG and 2 XA, that's like nothing. Like 3 XA, that's like 10 XGI. Like that's literally nothing. Like Mbumo is over there beside him, and his XGI is like way stronger, 15 XGI. So he's 50% better in terms of XGI, like underlying statistics, than Eze. But you gotta remember, he was playing in a team with Tony. Tony was making him look good. So maybe that'll go slightly down, but then that's offset by the fact that Mbumo was going to be on pins. So I'm not really worried about Mbumo. Specifically, Mbumo is like really nailed in my team. I just think like these fixtures are too good. Like Spurs, they don't really defend. Fulham, Palace is like okay. Bournemouth, but again, these are both at home. Newcastle is the only tough game. Everton at home. Nottingham Forest is like, these are just too many easy games. Like Man United would be the only tough game really, and Newcastle. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to own maybe Trippier in Game Week 5, and I'll own Onana for sure in Game Week 8. So I'm not really worried about Mbuemo. I'm also just worried about this Eze spot. This is my differential. And I just don't know if you won't really rate my draft if you don't rate Eze. I think it all just comes down to that. And I think the fact he's on pens, he just has a high floor. And that's what my instinct is telling me is like, instead of spending my transfers in midfield, I want to spend it in defense. Because I think longer term, I really want to get to somebody like Kieran Trippier. Right now, like he's so slept on. Like no one's considering Kieran Trippier right now, but that'll change really quickly. Because if we just look at what he did last season, he put up 200 points. And remember, his effective ownership was always close to 100%. Like his points didn't really give you any green arrows. Like everyone owned him because he was too cheap. So maybe people will take him for granted and be like, hey, I'll just go against Trippier this season. 6.5 is too much. But to me, it's not. It's really not, bro. Because Newcastle were the second best defense in the league last season, better than Arsenal. I know Arsenal, they had Saliba out, so they'd probably be better off this season. Potentially, they might have a better defense than Newcastle. And I know that Newcastle kept 14 clean sheets, so that means that like Trippier was subbed off before, you know, they conceded, right? So I think we just have to factor that in. So given the fact that he had an XGI of 13 last season, I'll expect him to get at least 10 assists this year. So there's 10 assists, that's 10 returns. Then they put up 16 cleans. Sorry, he put up 16 cleans, but Newcastle put up 14. So let's just be conservative and expect them to get 13. I just think that's solid. If Liverpool played terrible and put up 14 clean sheets last year, Newcastle will be able to put up 14 clean sheets this year for sure, even if they take a step backwards defensively. So I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, 10 assists, 14 cleans. When I look at this bonus points, I'm like, wow, 39 bonus points. That is potentially like 10 return. This is way too many bonus points. So let's just be conservative and assume 30. So that'll be 10 returns just from bonus. So that'll be 10 assists, 13 clean sheets, 10 returns from bonus points. That's 33 returns, bro. And like we gotta remember, like he has really tough fixtures in the beginning. So in the first like 3 or 4 games, like you're not gonna own him. But after that, you could set him, forget him. Like he just has the toughest fixtures out of the way. Man City, Liverpool, Brighton, Villa, these guys can all score goals. But after that, it should be some of the best fixtures left in the league, right? There's just simple logic. So I just think I want to get to Trippier. And by having my money in defense, I've already pre-planned for that mentally. And I'm essentially like not being able to get to players like Madison if they start playing well and Kane stays, or Foden if he starts to get hot. I won't be able to get to Luis Diaz if he's starting every game and scoring goals, or Diego Jota. I won't be able to get to that specific player unless I move away from the template like Rashford or Fernandes, but I probably wouldn't do that. So in order to get to somebody like that in my midfield, I'd have to rotate my defender and go down and then go up. It's only 2 moves away, but I just think you can't have everything. Like, in FPL, there's going to be players you can have, players you can't have. You have to make peace with with your bets. So you have to make peace with the players that you have. And I think I can be at peace betting on Manchester City defense because I think they're the best defense in the league. And I just think it's underrated. I think it's undervalued. Even when I look like on FPL review, looking at expected points and expected value, they're underrating what Man City can do. And I know the upside of somebody like Stones and Ruben Diaz isn't as strong as somebody like Chilwell, but I just think even if Chelsea do pick it up, like let's say Chelsea plays super great against Liverpool and West Ham and I want a Chelsea defender in my team, boom, I got 0.5 in the bank. I can just upgrade from a Stupinian. So there is some like potential. Like I think there's some potential for like a crazy draft where I could be behind the template if like somebody like Martinelli is going off, and like let's say Jesus is out for the whole season because if it's a knee injury, and I could be really wrong and be 2 moves away from the template, put myself behind the 8 ball. But I think it could work the other way, where it's like I'm going to be able to get to Trippier and other people won't, and it's going to be about that combination of like Trippier and like a penalty taker versus like a Martinelli and like a 4.5 or 5.0 defender. So it just depends where you want to make your bets, and to me, I think Trippier is like the biggest lock. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to repeat what he did last season, unless, because of the fact they have Champions League and they just signed Livermento, and like if he starts getting rotated in at right back, that's where I would probably get off Trippier, go down, and then come back up in midfield. But I think for now, I just have to take it as a given that Trippier is like the best defender in the game, and just take it, give it, especially at the price points. So I'm just pretty content and really set on my draft. And again, like you just have to make peace with your team. You have to be at peace with the squad that you want, the guys that you're vibing with. And to me, I'm cool for my green arrows to be coming from penalty takers, Like, I was the type of guy last season, I had McAllister, Matoma, and March. I didn't even have a Stupinian. So I'm going to be happy just to own a Stupinian this year. But it just shows you how much I really rate set pieces. Like, penalties are so valuable. Like, Palace could have literally no chances, and, as they can play a through ball to Edouard, and he can get tackled in the box, and boom, 7 points just like that. And Martinelli could have been cooking all game just to get 1 goal. Like, that's the thing. So it's like, it's going to be tough to like not be watching. It's going to be tough to not own double Arsenal mids, especially given the fact that the template has Martinelli, and I think he's a great pick. But you can't have everything, and that's how it is. Once you're at peace, you got to make your bets, you got to make your bed, you got to lie in it. Especially even game week 2, I'm not going to have Mo Salah, and like I'm a Liverpool fan, so it's going to be extra tough for me, especially given the fact that if I had him, I would 100% captain him. But I'm trusting my instincts. I'm trusting my gut. I'm just going to take it 1 game week at a time. I'm trusting double Man City defense. Like, please don't concede in game week 1, boys. Please. Like, that would hurt. But it is what it is. And yeah, this is where my team is right now. And if I provided some value to you, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see y'all again soon. Peace.